They are bold, they are tech savvy, and they are unafraid to speak up. They call themselves the woke generation. They are the most talked about generation. They are reshaping workplaces, they are challenging traditions, and they are rewriting the culture. But depending on who you ask, the Gen Zs are either the future's biggest game changers or just a generation of troublemakers. Hi, my name is Cecy K, and in this video, I'll dive deeper into how the Gen Zs are redesigning the systems and challenging the norms.
Hi, I'm Britt. I'm a 24-year-old dentist living in LA. You may know me from my chaotic LA apartment hunt last year, or my YouTube clothing haul, girl who used a pan as a hammer. Or maybe you don't know me at all because honestly I'm irrelevant. I graduated last year. I'm almost a year out, and already I feel like I was sold a lie of work-life balance. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're in your 20s, it feels like we're working more and living less. I would hate to have landed my dream job at 23 and burnt out by 30. Don't get me wrong, I like being a dentist. There's just a lot of things I wish I knew about this job. For the sole reason of my biological age not matching the age of my back and neck, I just cut down to 2 days a week. So welcome to the soft life of a Gen.
This is actually a generation that was born between the ages of 1997 and 2012. Now, depending on where you are from, they were born mostly by the Generation X. However, there are some that were born by the millennials, especially the millennials who had chosen to have their children early. This is a generation that grew up with Wi-Fi, global crisis, and side hustles. They are the first fully digital native generation growing up with smartphones, social media, online learning, and constant access to information. They've never known a world without YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok, and this has shaped the way they think, the way they connect, and the way they work. They are the first generation to question everything their parents took for granted. Work, love, and politics don't look the same anymore because Generation Z has refused to join the system. They are redesigning it. They value authenticity, mental health, social justice, and flexibility. They've been labeled as too entitled, too sensitive, but are they really?
Gen Z is the first generation to believe in utter authenticity. Like, you talk to anyone Gen Z, it's like they dress how they want to dress, say what they want to say, right? And why is that? It's because they've seen their parents go through crappy relationships. It's because they've lived through a financial crisis. It's because they've lived through COVID. It's because they've seen all the utter crap that the world gives them, and they know that they have to lean on their authenticity.
As a millennial with Gen Z siblings, the difference is definitely clear. For most of us, our parents decided what to study. Go and do medicine, go and do science. We obeyed, we asked for permission. But the Gen Zs are not waiting for anyone. They are not asking for permission. They are deciding what to study in universities. They are taking gap years. They are even dropping out to pursue their own dreams. The Gen Zs are erasing the tradition of go to university, study medicine, become a doctor, buy a house, get married, have children. They are doing everything on their own terms. They are creating opportunities, they are building businesses on social media from their own rooms. They are literally redefining what a career should look like. At work, the Gen Zs are mastering new platforms, remote work, digital trends, faster than the older generations. For them, the dream isn't climbing the ladder, but building their own.
You don't have to go to college to be successful.
I'm Antonio, I'm 19 years old, I do asphalt.
A career in skilled trade jobs is becoming a hit amongst the unlikeliest demo, Gen Z.
4 in 10 Gen Z workers say they're turning to blue-collar work for job security.
I feel like trades are such a even playing field. As long as you know what you're doing, you have the experience, and you have the ambition, you could really go anywhere in this trade.
18 to 28-year-old electricians, plumbers, HVAC techs, and more are increasingly choosing careers where they have to learn a hard skill and use their hands, because they say it provides stability without going into major debt. Many of them are turning to social media to share the ins and outs of their day jobs, garnering millions of views.
To be able to inspire people, make them do better for themselves.
I found passion helping others through TikTok find their way.
Amid skyrocketing tuition costs for more traditional colleges and fears of job security in white-collar roles, alongside the threat of AI, trade school enrollment is on the rise, with Gen Z leading the charge.
And last year, Gen Z accounted for nearly 1 in 4 new hires in skilled trade roles, despite making up just 14% of the total working population.
What made you want to share a bit of your journey on social media and TikTok?
Just want to get my face out there and just show the younger generation that it don't always have to be college. You can go to trade and you can.
They've watched older generation burn out in jobs that promise stability but delivered stress. So instead of asking, where can I work? They're asking, how can I live? This is a generation that values freedom over hierarchy, time over titles, a generation that's redefining value, a generation that has made hustle personal.
You know, people are setting more boundaries for themselves, especially the younger generation. They're like, oh no, you're not going to treat me like that because I'm not being paid enough.
Right.
To be like
the younger generation is
bulldozed.
speaking up.
Yeah.
Gen Zers are not playing around. We're like, I clock out at 5 p.m. That is my time.
They're not afraid to question authority, and they're chasing purpose over salary. They believe that success should align with value. In relationships, they've taken the rule book on love and bent it to ashes. Marriage isn't mandatory with them, and so is having children. And gender roles aren't rigid, they are fluid.
I believe that Gen Z will have the strongest marriages. I also think they'll have the fewest marriages of any generation. Marriage is without question on the decline. Without question. You can't argue. Cannot argue. It's on the decline. But what we're going to see is we're going to see a small percentage of people who decide to join in union in what we're today calling marriage, and they will have exceptionally strong marriages because they'll have consciously chosen to go into this union. They'll have the tools and they'll help each other to self-evolve.
And less kids.
They'll have less kids. Yeah.
And relationships to the Gen Zs are not about ownership, but alignment. They've grown up watching divorce rates rise, relationships fall apart, and so they are rewriting what commitment means. They are focusing on communication, mental health, honesty, and equality. They are reconstructing the dating scenes, focusing on talking stages and situationships. Dating apps as well as online dating has now become the new norm. They are moving away from traditional monogamy to non-monogamy and valuing friendship-based partnerships. Unlike other generations that made love a checklist, for Gen Zs, love is a choice, not a checklist.
The stages as they are.
So, from my understanding, and I think this applies for a lot of people my age, it goes talking stage, situationship, dating, and then boyfriend and girlfriend. Now, sometimes dating and boyfriend and girlfriend can be together, but I'm seeing more and more that dating and boyfriend and girlfriend are a separate stage. Talking stage is when you guys know you like each other, but you haven't really made any romantic moves yet. But it's clear that you guys like each other, okay? Situationship is that, but you've probably gotten physically intimate. You probably kissed. You probably went on like 1 or 2 dates.
Okay.
Dating is when you are going on dates, like, I guess for a few weeks by that point, where you are going on dates.
Are you
okay?
exclusive?
Love Island, that's my next question.
Technically, you're exclusive, but I guess you're also technically not exclusive. And then boyfriend and girlfriend is when you're actually official. Everybody's scared of commitment nowadays. That's why there's 4 stages of this.
That's why.
If you think they don't care about politics, you are not paying attention. They've seen broken systems firsthand. Housing crisis, climate disasters, corruption, racism, inequality. So instead of pledging loyalty to political parties, Gen Zs are pledging loyalty to principles. They are leading protests worldwide, especially in countries with weak economies, high unemployment rates, and of course countries where the governments are led by leaders who are way older than the average citizen. Researchers found a high level of support for democracy amongst the Gen Zs.
Gen Z protest chants are iconic I'm crying.
Gen Z climate activists are completely reinventing how we fight for the planet. At ZCon in Brooklyn, young leaders are pushing for
ready
environmental...
for this, but Africa's Gen Z is rewriting the rules. Gen Z across Africa is dragging corrupt leaders with hashtags, receipts, and no patience left. In Kenya, they exposed police brutality and forced ministers to respond on live TV. In Nigeria, they organized #EndSARS like a military operation with legal aid, food banks, and live-streamed protests. In South Africa, they're calling out inequality with satire and policy
The Gen Z's
demands.
politics are borderless, intersectional, and digital. They don't just share petitions, they build movements. They don't wait for change. They code, they organize, and they post until change happens. For the Gen Zs, activism is content, and content is activism. They are destroying the old system and questioning why they never worked for everyone. They are searching for meaning, flexibility, inclusion, and honesty. They are not anti-tradition. They are pro-transformation. Unfortunately, not everybody is impressed by the Gen Zs. So much has been said about the Gen Zs being delusional, being troublemakers, and a chaotic generation. However, there's a saying that where there is change, there's always going to be friction. In workplaces, for example, employers have complained about how it's so difficult to manage the Gen Zs. They've cited poor communication, lack of motivation, unprofessional behavior, and laziness.
According to a recent report, 60% of employers are firing Gen Zs just months after hiring them. 50% of these employers say that Gen Zers lack motivation and initiative. And some examples that they've listed is being late to meetings, wearing office inappropriate clothing, and using language that's not appropriate in the workspace. More than half of these hiring managers have come to the conclusion that young fresh grads are not prepared for the workforce, and 20% of them say that young professionals can't handle the workload. And because of these reasons, 1 in 7 employers say that they might avoid hiring fresh graduates altogether.
Don't hire Gen Z. They don't know what work actually means.
And their romantic relationships are described as transactional, they lack commitment, and they lack emotional attachments. And of course, because of social media, their relationships are mostly lacking face-to-face interactions. Some critics have also said that the Gen Zs lack patience, that they lack focus, and they rely too heavily on validation on social media. They've been called too entitled, too soft. They've been called oversensitive snowflakes that are obsessed about healthy living in social media. But let's be honest, every generation has been criticized. The millennials, for example, have been blamed for killing industries. Now it's the Gen Zs under the microscope. But the truth is, the Gen Zs are living under massive global shifts, climate change, digital surveillance, rising costs of living, social inequalities, all this while trying to build a future in an unpredictable world. So to me, their pushback isn't chaos, it's a response. To me, the Gen Zs are questioning systems that no longer work, and that's not trouble, that's evolution. They are building inclusive workplaces, empowering movements, and creating content that connects billions worldwide. Of course, we can't deny that they are very loud and opinionated, but that is what change requires. So, are they game changers or troublemakers? Well, maybe they are a bit of both, but that is what every revolution looks like at first. So, what do you think? Are the Gen Zs reshaping the world for the better? Or are they making it even more complicated? Drop your thoughts in the comment below. And if you have enjoyed this conversation, hit like and the subscribe button and share it with somebody that might enjoy it as well. I'll see you in my next one.